Hello, I'm Ryker V, and I'm an incoming junior at the Nueva School. This year at Blue Stamp, I made a phone-controlled tilt maze. So the base project for this project was basically just controlling a marble tilt maze with a phone. And the way I started was by using the MIT App Inventor for Android and making code that records the orientation of the phone and sends it to the ESP32 via Bluetooth. And the ESP32 was the equivalent to an Arduino that I was using. The Arduino then maps those signals to some servo motors, my two servo motors that controlled the X and Y axis of my tilt maze. Because it's controlling or it's recording the orientation, it should basically mirror the phone when activated. So you can see that here. Of course, it was a little bit buggy sometimes. The servos didn't work always exactly as intended, but from a macro standpoint, it usually worked as intended. So along with the base project, I also modified this project. One thing that I added at the end was a sensor that basically determines when you finish the game and activates a LED, a blinking LED. So the way I did this was I used an IR sensor with a LED in a circuit. And when the IR sensor sees something, I had some LED blinking code. And so although I never fully got this mounted on my project because, as you could see in the video, it was made out of Lego and it was very difficult to sort of synthesize both Arduino components and Lego. I was able to get all the code working, and so I hope in the future to make that work. Along with modifications, I also had a lot of challenges along the way. One of the main issues being that I had no idea where to start at first with my Bluetooth connection. I didn't know how to even approach the problem of like having two entities communicate with Bluetooth. So that required a lot of research to even understand at first. And so on top of that, I was also initially using a lot of Apple devices to try to accomplish this. And that was really difficult as they work a lot differently than Windows and Android. And so a lot of the tutorials I was watching to help me sort of solve this were on Windows and Android. And so I eventually had to switch computers and phones to get everything to work. And although I had a lot of bugs on the way, as I explained earlier, every time I fixed a bug, it still felt like I was getting closer to my final project, so I don't really count that as a challenge. Lessons learned. I would say the largest lesson I learned in this project was that no matter how hard something seems at first, you can always complete it with enough research and a little bit of help. And I feel like my experience here really reflected that, as I had no idea how to start this project at first. And by watching tutorials and by learning more and more about each component, I was able to unpack the project and sort of deconstruct it into easier parts. And so looking back on it, it wasn't that difficult. And another lesson I learned was that I really like working with Bluetooth connections. I feel like that's something I want to do more of, and it's really inspired me to pursue this aspect of engineering. So does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, that was an amazing presentation. I really liked everything you were able to accomplish. My question for you would be, you spoke about the MIT App Inventor. Do you want to share a little bit more about how that app kind of worked, or what you were able to accomplish using it?
Yeah, so basically the purpose of the MIT App Inventor is that you can design it on the web and then take supposedly any phone, but any Android in reality, and use that code by like scanning a barcode. And so what I did with that code was basically I had to I had to include their orientation sensor library, and I had to include their Bluetooth module. And so in my code, basically what happens is it sends one X value of the maze, and then an A, and then one B value, and then one Y value of the maze, and then a B. And the purpose of that is that, so when the computer sees those values on the serial monitor, it can see which coordinate is which. And so that's basically, it was pretty simple. All I had to do was just, there was like some functions for sending information over. It was like Bluetooth.send or Bluetooth.write. So that wasn't the complicated part. The more complicated part was just sort of getting that and my Arduino IDE to synthesize nicely.
Awesome, great answer. Thank you so much for presenting your project. It's really cool to see it all come together.